Hey, what's up guys? Behind us here we have a brand new Subaru 2022 WRX, a car the internet apparently doesn't seem to love, but we have been looking forward to it and I can't wait to get behind the wheel to see how it drives.
We actually had to fly all the way out to Utah, you can see the mountains back there, to pick this thing up because we couldn't find one in Iowa. That means we're over 1,000 miles away from home, and for the next 15 or so hours we have a ton of driving to do to get familiarized with this thing and figure out what's different and if it's for the best.
By the time we get home, we're gonna have this thing fully broken in and ready to start bolting on some parts, and we're gonna get it to the dyno too to see how it makes power.
Now, before we hit the road, let's do a quick walk around, figure out what the base model is all about, and see what the difference is between this, the Premium, Limited, and the GT trim.
Starting out in the front of the car, let's talk about the lighting. The previous base model used to come with halogen headlights, however now all the models have LED headlights. Additionally, if you step up to the Limited or the GT trim, you're going to get the steering responsive headlights, which is really nice for driving in the dark. It's going to give you a lot better visibility. Moving down to the fog lights, all the models now come with fog lights except for the base, which is what we have here, and it would go in this little part of the bezel. The bezels themselves have also grown in size, which is going to be great for the aftermarket. We can add DRLs or turn signals. It's going to give us a lot of room to play with.
Over on the side of the car, the biggest difference you're going to notice are the wheels. The base model comes with 17 by 8 inch wheels with 235/45 tires. Everything else gets 18 by 8.5 inch wheels with a 245/40 tire. We're going to be swapping these out anyway, so not a big deal. If we move up to the mirror, the Limited and GT trims get an integrated turn signal on the outside of the mirror, whereas the base model and Premium does not. Also, everything but the base model gets heated mirrors with the Subaru logo as a courtesy light. Base model misses out on that feature.
Let's talk about some changes on the rear of the car. Really, the only difference is the rear trunk spoiler, which of course our base model doesn't come with. However, I'm not too worried about it because there's gonna be a bunch of different aftermarket options. We're gonna get something on here to make the rear end look a little bit nicer.
Hopping inside of the car, there's a couple things to note. Now, I'm not gonna cover every little detail, but I'll talk about the big stuff. One of those being the seats. The base and Premium share these cloth seats. If you go for the Limited, you're gonna get the ultra suede trim seats. And if you opt for the GT model, you get the nice Recaros. Another thing you'll notice is this. On the base model, you get kind of a weird dual 7-inch multimedia display, whereas every other model comes with the massive 11.6-inch screen. I'm honestly not sure which one I like better. This honestly doesn't bother me, so I'm not too worried about it. Something else to keep in mind is the moonroof. On the base model, that is not an option. It's optional on the Premium model, and if you get a Limited or GT, it comes standard.
All right, we're at over 600 miles now, so I think it's broken in enough to give it a rip. Not bad. Dang, okay. Yeah, that feels really good. Now that we've been putting some miles on the WRX, I've got a chance to get more familiar with it behind the wheel, and the FA24 is definitely the highlight of this new generation compared to the last one. It's got a lot more usable torque, a lot more usable power, and I think technically on paper it's only about 3 horsepower more, but when you drive the car, it definitely feels like a ton more than that. So I'm excited to see what this FA24 can do with some tuning and some development. On our boost gauge here, it looks like we're only hitting about 13 PSI of boost, so if we turn this thing up, I'm pretty sure it's gonna have a ton of potential. I like the steering feel too. It's pretty direct, and small inputs that you make really do translate to the car, changing direction. Some of the older Subarus were known for having dead-on center steering, but that's not the case for the new gen, so that's something that's definitely a plus. My favorite part of this car is definitely the 6-speed shifter. When you shift gears, it's really engaging. You know you're in the right gear, you're not worried about misshifting, and it feels very familiar compared to previous generations of WRX shifters, so it's not a huge change in that department. I would, however, like to add a short shifter on here just to shorten the throws up a little bit, so I'm sure we're going to put an aftermarket short shifter on in the future. Also, this WRX has a 4.4 final drive, so it does accelerate pretty quickly. If you do go at very fast freeway speeds, like if you're going 80 miles an hour, you're turning over 3,000 RPM, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But all said and done, this car is very fun to drive.
We just finished up our drive through Nebraska, probably the most boring part of the trip. It's all flat, but now we are in the Los Hills Scenic Bypass of Iowa, which I actually didn't know existed. There are a lot of curvy roads out here to drive, and I gotta say, I'm super impressed with the handling on this car. It feels really planted and willing, and as Foster mentioned earlier, the new power plant in this car does wonders. Now let's talk about the inside, specifically these seats. Even though they have the base cloth seats in here, the bolstering actually holds you in quite well when you're pushing through the corners. Also, the dual screens. 90% of the time, you're gonna be using that top screen for Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. That bottom screen you utilize for your HVAC controls, but other than that, it's kind of useless. I wish they would have integrated some other features into the bottom screen, but let's face it, most people don't buy this car for the radio. A lot of people buy it for the Subaru all-wheel drive system. And on these curvy paved roads, it grips like none other, and it delivers power to all four wheels, pulling you through the corners. And because this is a rally-inspired car, we also took this out on gravel roads. And out there, it also inspires plenty of confidence to flick it into the corner, mash the throttle, and drift through the corner, having the time of your life.
So we're back at the shop with the new WRX, and it was a really long road trip, but everything went really well. There wasn't anything about the car that was hard to live with.
I could definitely see myself owning one of these as a daily driver, just going to work, getting groceries, you know, picking up the kids. I don't have any kids. Or taking it to an autocross or a track weekend. It was actually really fun to drive and livable.
So what was your favorite part of the road trip with the car?
Probably just taking it out on the gravel roads and tossing it around, mashing the throttle, drifting around the corners, getting it super dirty. How about you?
Yeah, honestly, you can't beat Subarus for loose surfaces. It's just so much fun with that all-wheel drive system. But me personally, I think my favorite part was doing the pulls on the freeway, on ramps, and getting up to the speed limit, of course.
Speed limit, yeah.
Yeah, but that new motor really rips. That FA24 felt good.
It really does. I think it's a huge potential for this car with the new motor. And we definitely have to change out some other things on this as well. Get some coilovers, wheels and tires, and certainly change out that exhaust.
Yeah, it's no secret. We know the internet didn't love this car right when it was released, so I'm excited to get some modifications on this and hopefully change people's minds a little bit about what they think of this new platform, especially when they see it with some mods on it.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw photos of this, I wasn't in love with it, but after seeing it in person and actually being able to drive it, it's grown on me a lot. I actually quite like the front end of this car. The flares don't bother me as much. The rear end isn't absolutely terrible when you see it in person, but we're definitely gonna put some mods on this car to make it look a whole lot better.
One thing we have to do for certain is change out the exhaust. It's so quiet right now, and I'm not used to driving cars that are so quiet, so I really had to look at the tach when I was shifting. I'd rather be able to hear it a little bit more.
ETS actually just dropped or released their catback and I think axleback for this car, so we'll get one of those in, throw it on the car, and get an exhaust video out for you guys.
Yeah, so if you guys like this new 2022 WRX content, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, because we're gonna be putting out a bunch more videos with this car in it, and you don't wanna miss out on any of it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We're super excited to have this thing in our shop, and we will see you guys next time.